All right, Paul.
One more good thing.
Thank you. Thank you for everything, Dill.
How about you have it? Yeah.
We have to join a Zoom on that show.
I don't think so.
I didn't think so either. Can you back up?
6-minute countdown, everybody. 6 minutes. Thank you. Have we seen any of our judges?
Nick Lepp has been here. Nobody else.
All right.
Go. Hello.
How's it going? Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Chilling.
Feel that.
You want some snacks? I'm snacked up.
I actually do want to know. I don't know the last time I had one of those. These are really good too, the pretzels.
You're welcome to anything.
Thank you. How's life?
You guys were busy, but
Are you doing the comm stuff?
I'm in the LBJ school. I'm in public policy.
Oh, cool.
It's an international version of public affairs degree. This is great.
Is it master's or PhD?
Masters. I think I will probably do a PhD after, but I don't know.
Oh, wow.
It'll probably be in like gov, like international political economy, like econ or policy. It's also somewhere. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm in a PhD class in the gov department, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So it's like maybe the research oriented stuff is better than I'm in like a profession. Like LBJ is a profession. It's like networking. Great if you want to work in the State Department. Not like right now, particularly, but in general. So, but there's a lot of stuff. There's a couple of cool people.
Yeah.
So, I enjoyed it a lot.
Great.
How about you?
I'm done with grad school. I finished the thing.
Awesome.
Thank you. I'm now just a regular old debate coach, working adult person.
Nice.
Yeah. It's fun.
Love that.
Yeah.
Can I have some paper?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, a whole lot.
I appreciate that so much. I'll give you whatever's extra. Because it looks like these fuckers don't have any paper.
I could never read my own handwriting. So.
Taylor let us.
Oh.
It's not our fault.
I think Taylor let Jameson. I think I just kind of started doing it.
And then she started doing it, so we...
I find that unacceptable, and I will be airing my grievances.
How you doing?
The only one I know of is this one right here. Is this one? Yeah.
I'll scoot over, you can have it. I don't need it for... Yeah, my laptop's gonna crater itself in like 10 minutes. Thanks.
Or you could just pretend you're the professor. You want to do that?
It's not the proper
That would
form.
not be awkward at all.
No, not at all.
Is there not trash in here?
The recycling bin.
recycling bin. Sorry.
Are you snacked up for real?
Oh, yeah. We were given license to order snacks on the card as our condolence for not having a rental car.
Wow.
So I cashed in and I realized I haven't been using it. I've just kind of been letting it roll around. It's a good condolence. Had to capitalize.
Okay, I'm going to hit send. And get like verbal or visual confirmation and I'll be good to go.
I got it. Yeah, download it.
There we go.
Okay. Should be good. Yeah.
Ian,
I'm good.
you're good. The advantage is green hydrogen. Climate change is here. We are in the midst of overshoot and must act now to avert societal ecosystem collapse through COP 25, threatening humanity's ecological catastrophe. Urges uncertain about condition for development of biosphere that socialized creating threat by fuels to oil, coal, and gas, to increasing content of CO2 effective runaway greenhouse gas effect creates condition incompatible with life productivity, false by half economic damage within the temperature that decrease by 1.52 degrees Celsius by 2005 half. The population is going to be in a stage where 1 degree Celsius will reduce water resource by 20%, not human health, compromise hygiene limit, free growth, producing high production, these conflicts between countries, increasing migration, glaciers melt, raising sea level expansion, desert stream weather droughts, oceanification, extinction of biological species by the food security in Asia, Africa, global warming, reality, 1.5% years of that goal can achieve the long term and easy way to work to get back on track. Reference 24 required transport, climate action 2025, and the status quo is the green paradox. We are on track for 4 degrees of warming from clean energy innovation without carbon pricing. Winter 14 green paradox reward without carbon pricing, clean energy innovation, carbon pricing confidence that substitutes innovation absent carbon pricing to a perfectly higher temperature path forward. One of pre-industrial levels as consistent with well finished severe feedbacks fast runaway global warming, driving innovation, clean substitute and absent carbon pricing make warming worse long run. Less eventually 0.7 of the price of oil drop substantially greater oil will be used following an innovation clean energy emissions carbon pricing essential and to make that innovation make more efficient use of energy, and that makes switching green energy production to green hydrogen key. Dirty hydrogen produces mass greenhouse gases that lead at all 24 hydrogen emerging sources decarbonize electricity production. Clean hydrogen means the process of method used to produce hydrogen with zero GHG emissions. 95% of hydrogen-based fossil fuels process with significant greenhouse gas. Green hydrogen is a produces water molecules with energy generated from renewable electricity. Carbon-free stem. This energy comes from wind, solar. Only byproduct is oxygen, and green hydrogen production avoids black carbon soot emissions. Weighing it all, 23 supercritical combustion, insufficient oxidation of fuel soot particles are a contributor to global warming. Green hydrogen, green fuels that produce CO2 and soot during combustion. Hydrogen, affording carbon-free fuel can boost the combustion efficiency, reduce pollutant emission as CO2 and NOx, and those feedback loops make immediacy key. At all 24 climate change impact the use doesn't globally lead to disease, mass world, place examples of flaming extinction temps are compelled by changing green form, extreme weather, acidification, fire system cannot adapt quickly enough. Combustion of fossil fuels release black carbon particles need thousands of time more effectively than CO2 deposits on solar ice accelerates the melting risk extinction, and immediate action must be taken back. Climate change efforts must be accelerated, and water scarcity creates nuclear water conflicts in Asia. Extinction independently, it creates racing proliferation, Oscan and health, and 22 tensions between India, China, and Pakistan only get worse the climate crisis, consequently increasing threat of nuclear war, even limited nuclear war, because catastrophic global climate disruption, worldwide famine, not being confined to subcontinent global effects are death, rate of conflict by Pakistan, and they rely on inflation melt. And fresh water from the industry, irrigation, and electricity. A third of ice fields are breaking to the melt. This leads to increased flooding, also increased monsoon rains, the cause catastrophic floods, resulting in agricultural damage brought by total conflict. As climate change rates glacial treat and reaching increase, reducing water availability, intensity, frequency, and severity have increased responsibility in water supply. China and the Pakistan are rebuilding hydroelectric dams along the Dakota, and in this construction, affects shared waters, reach deteriorating relationship with India and China, larger conflict in Angola, the border competition continue growing tension contributing to nuclear arms. China is sending Russia, India is collaborating with Russia, Pakistan, new delivery systems, development, expanding uranium, Russian infrastructure, and current and great infrastructure is dated, unreliable, finite, and not crisis dispatchable, which makes it vulnerable and ensures blackouts for custom zones. 23 majority of micros are currently diesel gas, which risk of full service in high remote areas. Clean group micros are key roles in building service when there's disruption of blackout micros island from the main. Having a secure backup is crucial. Critical locations, wastewater, shelter, hospital, please require fuel on hand. However, backup jets are not used. It's not clear if they have been maintained, function, and no notice situation micros power longer than the diesel. Crucial when fuel conflict delivers undue to unsafe conditions, remote risk of disruption, cascading impact of locations of independent cities are critical sectors effort during blackout and renewable transition is happening, but not fast enough. Action is necessary necessary to ensure renewables place, not add to fossil fuels. CC now. 25, global energy transition unstoppable. We have a solution source like solar, wind, while the green energy transition is not happening fast enough. We'll list to making progress across renewables, following rapidly adoption of children. Trump declared energy emergency has positively polluted efficient renewable tech out. Nothing will change renewables cheaper, more reliable when installing the EU beating fossil fuels in the US, fighting rapid electricity and shutting down unprecedented pace of energy production. But local governments are continuing to new coal plants target remain out of leash as long as he's prioritizing coal. The US is regulating growth in renewable energy capacity. Last year, intermittent renewables failed to decarbonize hard to abate sectors, which means green hydrogen is key and ensures microgrids are fossil-free. Rush F21. As nations deploy clean tech, cracking hydrogen will be crucial for those hard to decarbonize sectors, including long-haul transport and industrial microgrids, but they present the perfect test microgrids are going in there. Focus on renewable energy power, microgrids where constant power cannot be dependent upon intermittent resource hydrogen, service less reliability of the grids, unstable, often reliable long hour, duration of backup power industry to respond to grid instability, and green hydrogen is the only fuel that can reliably power microgrids, but it cannot be cost competitive against oil and gas with a carbon tax. Junkin and Riley 21 microgrids are not falling current to decarbonization microgrids. They cannot be filled by intermittent energy difficulty in business cases to price of benefit on emission reduction to replace non-fossil fuels will be higher than the cost will be higher than fossil generation of recycling renewable cover cell, and a cost of premium. The business case depends on the cost of energy. Microgrids today generation of larger gap. The cost is low and available microgrids requires substitution of fossil generation to renewable hydrogen. However, the marginal cost of renewables low. The cost of storage is high. Improves cost of carbon tax and push cost competitiveness advantage depths and diesel and blackouts cascade globally and irreversibly extinction. Reese 18. Our world inclusive and elaborate numbers power rises and and catastrophic breakdowns. So these would be good luck for large to be untenable and non-Greek civilization being extinguished. Likely a catastrophe hit any region without cascading globally. A collapse for you truly global setback so devastating that survivors can never regenerate, and that causes meltdowns, extinction huts. Is 16 long loss of power, loss of outside power and interruptions between the cooling water. The pools all bets are off. There's no capture mechanism. Water will boil away the defies, release of radioactivity when plants run out of the diesel when the generators can take it. Directly into all the plants, every plant in the house. Potentially cause Chernobyl, the ultimate depopulation event. However, is not coming. Church stay at least 1 year to place and grid collapse. Releases biological agents. Marquise. At all 17, DoD with service relying commercial grid power on military basic critical backup systems are currently provided, including Fortress biodefense cancer and house the most binary biological essence existing and cannot afford to lose power. And bioterrorism causes mass extinction and keep 24 use biological toxins to kill, contain from an infected plant environment, convert the human body into form mass extinction and can kill infected people and 90% even for destroying it to get out of control. The whole world agents can be targeted, developed, acquired, stocked, or distributed by groups, and thus the plan resolved. The United States federal government should adopt a $90 per ton carbon tax, rising annually with a commensurate border carbon adjustment, and that makes the market favor green hydrogen, and firms begin to repurpose combined cycle gas turbine plants. Madison 25. Section summarizes data specific results showing lowest production costs are in this case where CCTG operates using energy car price. In order to set CCTG with HU with the cheapest and most competitive options to the CO2 price surpasses $90 a ton. The more captures the carbon prices and energy costs and such systems utilizing green hydrogen electric percent estimated to be 32 cents a kilowatt hour. The carbon price is once the price exceeds $9 a ton. With a second configuration when HU becomes competitive, hydrogen will rank among the most competitive technologies for electric generation and services. Economies of scale replacing coal-based steam version of H2 based CCTG rules on emission reduction, and green hydrogen is better than all alternatives. Water electrolysis hydrogen production avoids the intermittency problem and operationalizes profitable decarbonization. Bank et al. 24. Hydrogen combustion fossil fuel pollution carbon emission. Green hydrogen reduces methane, coal, and natural gas to achieve true zero emissions energy density. Extremely high production method of diversified use of wind and solar power for water electrolysis, hydrogen production, solvent for energy achieve energy recycling, price new carbon for industrial sectors, steel, chemical, big investment in innovation, manufacturing, infrastructure, and international trade market. Hydrogen is an ideal energy medium for low carbon transition energy system, and solar, wind are ready for hydrogen scale, but investors need market certainty to go green. Kumar. In Limb 22, hydrogen produced from various renewable sources, more hydrogen produced for non-renewable fossil fuels. There was increasing interest in making production and utilization of green hydrogen, scale and versatile water electrolysis, key tech for sending water into hydrogen adoption by using renewable energy, solar, wind, and varied for electrolysis to device and power distribution, conventional renewable energy, high water electrolysis, and more advanced the surplus electrolytic can be stored for hydrogen and balance the discrepancy of demand and production of hydrogen. Not only primary supply is it, energy competitive for use in fuel cell vehicles, and federal action is key. Uncertainty does not attract investment, stopping the green transition. Lee et al. 24. Current cost of sort of electrolysis make hydrogen more expensive than fossil fuel. Federal investment guide how states integrate green hydrogen. California power to push regulation continues from the Fed for investors uncertainty for early industry taking more challenging commit dollars and private investment needed to support the system transition, and high costs prevent a hydrogen transition now, but the plan flips the script by making green price competitive. Wadi et al. 22. Study shows the green hydrogen production not competitive in comparison to gray and blue hydrogen scenarios, but in the future with hydrogen solar and the most price competitive hydrogen methane reforming it up, and carbon taxation is necessary for running green hydrogen production and electrolysis and selling oxygen and byproducts for this profitability, but only under tax-based incentives. Then goes in 24. Some components that contribute more to the GBWP compared to other electrolysis system in Dangleter. Luckily, the mission can be steel slag, or blast material, reducing industrial recycling, industrial waste, steel, polymer, combat, utilizing industrial byproducts, sustainable alternative conventional concrete, lower emission reduced energy consumption, green hydrogen, not feasible instead of alternative optimize the investment solely. The produce oxygen failed to achieve IRR of 7% under a tax, and models show carbon pricing gets modeled globally, as Meyer et al. 22. Will send these out to carbon to support international fusion and tech to determine political feasibility of economies and related to trade industrial companies to adopt the same policies would also show positive influence lower GDP per capita adoption and carbon pricing. All prior work reports statistical evidence for national fusion of carbon pricing prior to affirmative reduction fees of popularity adoption by 10%. The majority of emerging international norm design parameters be less important. International cooperation likely to be important factor fusion carbon pricing partially expect efforts to the next cooperation. Let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
Glass fuels will be converted to hydrogen, which protects profits for ATAC. And L24 retrofitting of fossil natural gas turbines economically stable future from hydrogen as hydrogen infrastructure continues power plants converted to hydrogen fuel retrofitting strategy enable accelerated fuel such as hydrogen investment power supply with hydrogen in the year 2030 dark and follows nuclear fuel. New power plants need to be built with cost for retrofitting plants and versus the NG go study estimates of retrofitting plant will cost 20% of the commissioning cost of few existing centers work advanced cost increases of different subsystems of hydrogen turbine and renewables. And the carbon tax needs to be immediate, otherwise it'll water down, Conway. And L21 corruption and accreditations of carbon tax policy cycle where the process begins with formulation and adoption or addressing which especially stem from government's issues, various stages of prosecution, properties, rural compression, and due influence and strong various systems of actors that will be affected by carbon tax involving excluding a given actor. Repetitive work participants get large farmers giving rise to politicians, decision makers have personal interest conflict of ability to act impartially, numerous instances of fossil fuel lobbyists are appointed to policy making position of major influence over climate change policy in the head of the EPA.
It was sent out.
Alright, we're ready whenever y'all are.
Alright, I'm going to start cross, but I'm going to take a few seconds of cross's prep. I guess while I'm doing that, is the plan statutory?
What does that mean?
Like, is it a bill through Congress?
Jameson?
We think it goes through the U.S. federal government. We think that would likely be through Congress and approved by the president, though we haven't outlined that in any of our 1AC cards.
Okay.
We think that is one of the most likely outcomes, though.
Hydrogen?
Yep.
Why is hydrogen specifically cost competitive under the plan?
Under the plan, we've read evidence that in the status quo, it's being produced with fossil fuels that is not, well, I guess the argument is that we need to change the way that we produce hydrogen for it to be cheaper than ingrained ways of fossil fuel productions. Our argument is that we need to create the economies of scale from repurposing natural gas and coal plants into using solar and wind production to create green hydrogen.
Okay, why is it hydrogen specifically?
Green hydrogen specifically?
Yeah.
Why what about it?
Like, why is the renewable energy that's like cost competitive under the plan hydrogen specifically?
Because, well,
Well, so, no, we read arguments that we think firms would invest in green hydrogen because dirty hydrogen, gray hydrogen, brown, blue, et cetera, would no longer be cost viable under our carbon taxes. They'd have to pay emission standards, et cetera. So we think they'd switch to green hydrogen. We've read arguments that solar and wind scale is ready for the green hydrogen transition.
Okay.
It'd be cost effective because they'd have to pay money to produce the other form. It's like a normal carbon tax.
Okay. Grid collapse causes biological pathogens. Why?
Our argument says that DoD hosts biological pathogens on Fort Detrick's defense campus. Our evidence says that if the power would collapse, that the security would also
Okay,
collapse.
why does that lead to bioterrorism?
Because it hosts the biological agents, it cannot be afforded to use power. Our argument is that the next card says groups could develop, acquire, stockpile, want to get control of this to use it to destroy the world. This would be a point of them
I
to do
know,
it.
like they want to, but like how do they get
As
it?
I said, Fort Detrick's biodefense campus cannot afford to lose power.
Okay, so like your scenario is that Fort Detrick's loses power and terrorists go into Fort Detrick's and take the bioweapons?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Meltdowns? Is it nuclear meltdown?
Yep.
Why does that happen as a result of a grid collapse?
Because when there's not electricity to ensure the capture mechanism, i.e. the water that keeps the power plants cool, the water boils away and then they just like get too hot and basically melt down.
Okay, why do meltdowns go global?
Our argument is that it causes like societal collapse through like fires and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the set? It is 1, 2, 7 off.
Thank you.
In case.
JMUPR is good.
Okay, cool.
For some major question, countervailing the United States active branch of $9 per ton carbon tax pricing handling with the commensurate border carbon adjustment. The United States Congress survival to challenge the actual grounds of the agency special authorization over $90 per ton carbon tax pricing handling with the commensurate border carbon adjustment. The Supreme Court of the United States will favor the agency unilateral agency actions all the applicant for major question jobs for the plans. Legislative delegation is MPD tax. Green 24. What's what you proposed to be before it is make progress. I issue something you get to that payment. What do you do? We divided down. And you do to give it a dozen over the usual very close to the counters. Except about it. Hope to get out of the use item. It doesn't. The power. The MPD handcuffs legislative regulation efforts by the creating legal uncertainty and shooting down emergency authority. 1123. Yeah. Regulation misaligned AI and federal causes extinction. Verse 20. The text just said. Federal public policy is the focus of Texas should move with the sovereignty for their economy and resources. Bell 22. The DNM. That's up to the next federal secession forces Fed response immediate civil war extinction. Order 22. New Fs are bad. It destroys negative preparation, which kills Russian fairness, close in 30 minutes before the round solves their offense, justifying theory to get back in the game. The federalism counterplan. The 50 states and relevant subnational actors, including the National Government Association, to suspend their cooperation with the administration of federal programs until the federal government adopts $90 per ton carbon tax, rising and legally commensurate border carbon adjustment. It competes and solves condition compliant forces federal adoption without fiat again and reasserts the strongest form of cooperative federalism. Bloomberg 21. What is that? The power of the some states of cooperative federal security by these as exchange federal law and as hard as the international programs as a real like the federal association federal about to be for private the threat constitutional authority as a required otherwise governance failures from federal enforcement cause extinction because Malakas 2019. Wow, okay. We this gonna be to that to go and there were making there is a tourist but the years of this is feeling get to the power break sort of the arms and lobby and we can do the passport and the text that really but I guess we just to be able to get the best of the say something worse than the next the LPEK. The one sees field competitions to market favor reproduces a new classical economic paradigm that puts economics in front of human lives. Rules 21. New classical medication to the BI to the significance of the classical theory of the first person action of the new classical climate to the really better powers is those actions are about better than accuracy of the reaction because the relative parameter against the society policy other aspect it's probably better happen to the sort of the battle because the everybody grass you got to put the universities that request the you guys will be good because of the better to put everything because the best sort of the national president of the cabinet to the university direction to architect alternatives to reject paradigm market failures, endorse a paradigm of law and political economics to replace market-based instruments. 3020. I'll see you the regards to here. This is about the board POC. Original events are very word. I'm not going to go to course of duties of different different aspects of the rate of the minority. Social events conducted ability to about the distributive about ecology. It's all about the authorities to agree to the food crisis. It's already listed for the rest of the life. It's about the market stage of the requirement or benefit law. Divided by 12. What makes the ability to progress this book research is a possible right as the start of the the sheriff's what legal analysis been done about the companies who are taking off a set of regulations from a neutrality morality and next Venezuela just said. The United States federal government should extend the Chevron Corporation general license to extract oil in Venezuela and liberalize trade policy over Venezuelan oil. Venezuelan stability is dependent upon high oil prices. Decline goes the worst case scenario for perpetuate failure of dooms. Regional stability draws in great powers. Do you know? 19. Venezuela state that he don't get the oil rules, but like better represented by Pacific exports of the affairs about Venezuela, better the crisis. When the president of the world, better the great stability, where you guys are breaking through sectors, or areas of the worst case scenario. The government use Russia, China, the house, the American space, Ireland, the stability of the collapse, and the more so all the full economic policy. Russian old man perception alone. Snowball is just investment. Bogman's 23. Welcome to the attack. Preserve the baby, love the baby, the jams, the birds, the batters, and the direction of the bands, the investment because the service is close to the tax. So I get the board rather than the House of the Latin American disability from proxy war to go nuclear. Kremlin 13. Principal concern for Latin America. The bird of the degrees of flat security. Typically, about the security. I should myself right of those evidence. I got to do recommendation nuclear, but already said they put the construction civilians and building middle top strategy to the American House. And play back to the Latin American ranch. The economic
Skip 7,
Skip
go to
7,
case.
case. First hydrogen, one more moment catastrophic, Zycur 21. Two to water course, water and fish, 22. This kind of method is resource security. They have their piece of that is clear cabinet. That's true, but the goes right to the simple out to the right there. Comment based on people and seems like we go to water and leave based on go up is more likely. And hit 3 the turn. Relative back is wrong, walk 12. Let's say there's about what is the no, the main factors back out of the middle of the store back to the video of the back regional arms of the these guys ready to visit the record. Looks at the other idea of first of the Chinese sort of the back side go. I think we're just getting successful but about so what they say a month of actual rags which is the great powers and pro stabilizing good appearance of monoscope next shell for 18. Not sure the by the administration but that's better what the government the better news. If you look at the for the nuclear expectations was he's all around and trying to get rapidly as a crime club sort of similar to the police and vote Chris faction which basically after the board being the remote Ukraine, Syria, Libya, Iraq all proved that nuclear hegemons always took all interventionism. A relative is the only way to resolve asymmetric capabilities and end war. It appeared is about to move towards diplomacy. Yes, 22. It was going to resolve questions around the world. Nuclear battles great EAM, pizza security, Syria, the record of it was the age who hated to be to protect themselves. He said, of course, it is already nuclear battles of sacred ability to deal with the thing, lifting out, go, season, nuclear battles, then he wants to die, that I have because he became an out of the night, to destruct the sailing, to destroy the paradise, and our look, he's sort of the market, gets over, dismembered, no code, and the old crash, walked to the public, sort of there's now be Ellen to the I mean, to give access to the theoretical drivers of red absolutes and for dialogue. I read the communication, the intention of equalization, the about 30 bad ones out of the sounds getting to the make a to buy, capital situation negotiations, nuclear border only good to host, better time to use the region, the days of the region, those fair regions. I think we'll benefit the thousand, you either grace a bit, possibility of victory, reference to bad blood to sport and medical, it's a particular matter of security each state. Also, yes, if I did earth, is a negotiated, I use an inaugural and now preliminary to meet large to close to the Russian, the great spirit, and out of the voting bones, and clear the green road, there's only nothing to destroy the world. I'm not going to agree to this or anything, but any nuclear activity going to do it as a beam. I don't know if it's going to know using his desire to take up for participating in the third side of the world destruction. And 4 resilient, wide sail, 19. I'm just going to take and read those together to labs of separate theory workers as are committed to not find scale. He was power of using models of power as somebody doesn't know and under the fair target is I have the chance to hack the power. If it's rather sort of the rules of medical or type of theory or based on all of it when we're related to the GHS station. Having to radiate class, but so what we've ever recon a bit of research if you are getting about across the right opposite. He said about the data of the doors that he's having some other ideas really easy to store even across the guide so much to the hackers great. But if you're a little bit here to the rest you should about and here's really insignificant and 5 no meltdowns and back Schellenberg 19. Listen, where they're going to the nuclear has always been safe. That's more than people, especially the LD, because you know my boat, but I guess we're excited to have lost about the person. We got to talk about it. We're going to dream of it. He's like, he suffered a crash, he's not killed. He wants to put together for us. He feels they're scared of better. As escapes since the bit of death, those vanished, he's followed around 206 no synthetic pathogens. Wimmer 18. That's a lot of things. But everybody had to go to drink murders. We're going to be able to start to get around. I might have disappointed them that he get it. He's made a bit of the other guys. He worked for any mistake from these bad companies. It was not going to be free to get it. Like saying, works even today. So I was going to an excellent for also fitness. 7 carbon tax fails to solve emissions, and GDP loss, lack of infrastructure, litigation, minimal production, warming, all bar success. Lewis, 21. Carbon for the inflation, plus the GDP, the growth status of the vegetable effects, and exhausted the benefit of the damage, so the aspect against the available, the same while the city will replace the vessel with electric data set federal better with you, but it's your love with the 15 years ago, as soon as I make the benefit of some players are making fuels, the best of the video cast, 450 per ton, whatever, 1.2 uses associated with more reasons, what's it, see why, who do they come to, and 100 fails, flips advantage 1, 21. Other than guided bus use of the best way to try to hydrogen nitric here, other energies wasn't within a bit of the best of the hydrogen higher emissions, and finally, nitrogen using a true and less expensive.
Stop that for hat expensive.
Good.
Let me get a drink real quick.
Sorry, you stopped at expensive, right?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay. I'm good now.
Are the advocacies conditional?
Against undisclosed new apps, yes.
is legal uncertainty key to solve the impact to like misaligned AI and MQD?
What do you mean legal certainty?
Is it better for the legal environment to be certain or uncertain to make it so we don't have misaligned AI?
I mean, we think the MQD specifically is uniquely key, not just like certainty generally.
Okay, what about the MQD is key?
Do what?
What about doing the MQD over the plan is key?
Yeah, so the MQD, specifically the London card, articulates how agencies now, what, you mean like over the plan specifically, or how does it interact with the internal? Okay.
Yeah.
Because the plan otherwise would be either like, it would
Okay,
only
I'm gonna ask a new question because you're wasting so much of my time.
Only
The
strike the
uncooperative
AD.
federalism kind of plan, I have another question. The
Go ahead.
uncooperative federalism kind of plan, why is doing the plan here key to solve like the governance model of federalism?
because it reasserts, what do you, like,
Why is a $90 carbon tax key to solve your internal net benefit?
We think that like the policy, or like, we think uniquely suspending cooperation until the government does the plan is key.
Why the plan? You know,
Because
let me
it will
just
happen
ask about
otherwise.
something you might be able
It's
to
a-
answer. The
it's a
Texas
lateral
DSAD, how does Texas secede, excuse me?
the Texas National Movement either makes a like motion in the state legislature, or it rises up in armed conflict against federal agents.
Yeah, if they like make a motion to legislator, why would the Fed give a fuck about that?
Because one, it's illegal, and two, the Bruner evidence identifies that it would cost the U.S. its largest port, oil production, important military bases. There's an incentive for the federal.
If not a market failure, what would you constitute climate change as?
That we can look at that.
I mean, it's not necessarily a market failure, but rather it's like a failure to like address climate change as a whole as like a human, like anthropocentric problem, not just like a problem with the markets.
What? That doesn't make any sense at all. How does the K reject like capitalism as a whole?
No.
No, what does it do?
The K like reorients the markets to driving towards certain goals,
What
rather than just
goals?
letting the markets do like whatever.
Is it like we're going from profit to humanitarian incentives or something like that?
Basically.
Okay. The Venezuelan DSAD, what is the point of the unique discounting plan?
To make it so that Chevron can extract oil in Venezuela now.
Yeah, but like Venezuelan oil is doing like really, really bad right now, and you don't have a solvency advocate for this. So like, how is that going
It
to solve
solves
those problems?
Venezuelan oil.
We don't think Venezuelan oil is doing bad right now, but
Your
like
card is from
extending
2019. What are you talking? Your impact card's from 2013. Okay. Done?
No, we're good.
Okay.
That is true, I just have to find the folder that I saved it on. This is the worst part about having your last round ever. You've had so many folders, you just can't find anything. Cool, got it, Stan? Hey, go drink your water. Never mind.
Oh, I still lied. I guess I did.
Order is case, in the order of the off and the one and C. I will say what that is.
I can kind of remember it.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up. Load these. Okay. That's not the doc. You know, that is so funny. I sent out basically most of my 2AC blocks, so that is not correct. Just sending out the wrong doc.
not right.
No, he didn't hit save.
Oh, whoops.
No, I have two docs. Yeah, whatever, cool.
So,
I sent the correct one, it will be called 2AC_real.
okay, cool.
The order is case, MQD, the Texit DSAD, the procedural, the uncooperative federalism NGA counterplan, the LEPK, and then the oil DA. ready. I'm gonna start then.
Climate change is existential. Accumulation of extreme weather, droughts, acidification, food insecurity, and biodiversity collapse cause extinction from biological species, from increase in CO2 content, nuclear food wars. Two scenarios access the impact. First, CO2 emissions alone exacerbate global warming and ensure that the advance happens. Second is that black soot emissions, which come from dirty hydrogen production, only offsetting it from the African solvent. The black soot emissions stop the absorption of sunlight, which ensures warming. It's drop coming out of the 1C, so you know it's true and it's internal. They haven't answered. Next, they read Zyker. Zyker's conservative think takes you bankroll by fossil fuels. Narrative 21. The Zyker science narrative at an AEI, which received 4 million Exxon Hay false Africa argued science does not support climate change. This summer is not fortuitous. Less than 2 months, the IPCC released a code warning that the climate crisis is now spiraling. No one would confuse Zyker for Cyrus is peer reviewed. Next is water wars. Doesn't assume the specificity of our argument, i.e. India and Pakistan, but even then we're not going, we're going to concede the impact even if there's no water wars, which means they don't get the prolific term because that's the only internal. Either way, if they try and do some weird things with it, our card is specific about vertical proliferation, i.e. countries that already have nuclear weapons further proliferating their nuclear weapons. So the prolific term doesn't apply because it talks about other countries developing nuclear weapons. This, I don't need to read a terminal here because this is other bullshit for grids. First, fossil fuel volatility means microgrids are key to critical sectors, but this internally collapsed green hydrogen is key because it allows for on-site energy demand, i.e. you store your energy in green hydrogen, and that acts better than batteries in the status quo. The Whalesing N19 evidence that they read doesn't apply because we aren't about hackers, so it doesn't apply to us. It's about energy stability causing grid failures. They haven't answered transition inevitables because operators are switching to renewables, but the intermittency problem ensures the renewables cannot be adopted on a mass enough scale to ensure that they solve for everything, which means switching to green hydrogen is key because access storage on site, which solves the intermittency problem. Meltdowns go nuclear. Absent water from the grid, they explode, which is bad. They conceded no terminal to meltdowns. Try or die framing in the grids and unstable grids kill nuclear plant because try or die for hydrogen on bioagents cause extinction purpose. The specificity of Fort Derrick, we've said that bioagents are already developed there and again terrorists are looking for opportunities to attack it. The card they read said they simply don't exist, but we are out-teching them on this and that. We've read a specific place, so we get it. The carbon tax fail stuff, yes, shift, it's easy. First, hydrogen gets sold internationally, which the drop 20C fan is. This proves that the hydrogen development, U.S. hydrogen development markets explodes markets around the world and ensures that it develops. Second, they drop that coal and oil facilities reconvert it for green hydrogen production, ensures stable transition, but also means it happens faster, less of a jump in the market is ready. This is Venezuela and Polks at 25 units, which was a high risk of solvency. They also drop winters, which said carbon tax is uniquely key to solve, i.e. incentivize green innovation at a high price, and even small prices solve June 21. The price matters we don't set high because the lobbies have their way, they don't see the green emission reduction, but studies show that even lower prices have large effects. Another key that's every year the price goes up, and even if you started low by these into a price that exceeding 100, the PAT 21 card is wrong because hydrogen, every argument they made specifically about hydrogen assumes dirty hydrogen, which is the status quo, i.e. gray, blue, and brown hydrogen, which are produced using fossil fuels and CCS, which we have uniquely said is bad to switch to green hydrogen. Ensures not only energy stability, but it is friendly towards renewables. This comes drops coming out of the 1 and C, so if they make no answers from the block, then Roy gets to blow it up. Counterplan. Perm do both. Perm do the applicant counterplan. Perm do the counterplan. It should just means desirable. 1899 shall discuss with the mandatory should speaker something is not satisfied if not desirable. Nothing. Counterplan supposed to be both textually and functionally competitive. Force tremendous. The counterplan occurs in case based from artificial net benefits occurs. Negative innovation. The key to upper class education and perm do the plan of the counterplan. Another energy policy. Limited interest in the case is good to test link tremendous and avoid arbitrary net benefits. Which oblivious case and reject the team for process. Counterplans they steal the entire concept of the one seen are anti-educational by shifting the action for the act which are arbitrary basis for competition and reject the team for conditionality causes 2EC strategy in-depth consultation. Her targeting innovation instead to innovate preferred display actors. Straight turn to CPA and stuck them with it, which would have much better. Anyways, I'm not going to read that uncertainty card, but uncertainty actually no. Uncertainty subject to any financial regulation. Extreme influence cause financial crisis. No, actually, that's not a good card. The plan's MEDC is key to avoid the paradox. Schuster Myers 12 carbon tax is not implemented immediately, not seen for the later point. These more extraction and diddling is detrimental to the dampen greenhouse effect. Give resource under time to extract all that increases the speed drilling is the effect of large to resource exacerbating feed. It's less than the ground results in less for a and more specification. Additionally, extend the Conway card that Ray read in the 1AC, which talks specifically about how lobbyists and policymakers are all invested in fossil fuels now. So if Congress has to if Congress or any sort of politician has to make decisions about fossil fuels or renewables, they're going to always shift towards fossil fuels. So if it's not certain, it doesn't work. Anyways, permutation to the app and overrule Western Virginia v. the AEPA, and they're wrong about MQD. Its application is vague, so they can't solve for the regulation internally. BR is purple 1123. No one knows together the court for the offer vague standards. The majority opinions that the only extraordinary cases had 18 months of court majority use the doctrine to overrule agency actions of using housing or banks instituted loans into cases extended to points of which eventually regulating new tech majority such rest on the claim that shifting is too new. That is wrong.
Yeah, cool. No internal link legislators at all times. Sure, no AGI impact. I'm 21. And I have a process of being home closer to the human brain than the every single day of rest and the intention of the human including around applicants is not going to occur to the AGI as results of math and possibilities and analyze their perpetual motions to see there's nothing on the horizon and the text generated GPT-3 has shown itself capable of foreshadowing the racing north and suggesting that health cures that are after 20 years of life has been pursued. There's no general AI beyond the boundary of a machine. On the Texas DA, first case comes first. Common disaster triggered the link. The greatest bad for Texas uniquely because they're state question off, so it doesn't help in their cards about Biden policy. Thumb shame you were screen to see Bella 22 implemented by Joe Biden's administration because one of the first decisions against construction of the Keystone XL, a pipeline of the project to transport oil from Canada and their culture from 2022. And obviously, assume Biden, there's no chance for Texas to disrupt world. You begin to overwhelm linking to that policy. Acres, the EPA cuts removal of climate change reference to the elimination IRA are all reasons that folks in Texas would get upset. And no link Trump will spin the app for fake news is just another ploy against them, which ensures that they don't get this no secession, it's just a negotiation ploy. Source 24. Well, written secession absolutely not started. The Texas gets somebody they voted to negotiate. Texas push for examining the state resolution implemented the federal government. These practical limitations office. Our secession can be constituted as just a scheme. New apps. First of all, they're inevitable at the NDT. It's rounding and no deterrence. This is Roy and I's last round, so we're not going to learn our lesson anyways. You didn't ask us to share it, so it doesn't apply. We said it was new. You didn't ask us to send it. We might have done it anyways. New app's good. Encourages strategic and creative thinking instead of robotically deploying predictable strategies. Second account, new apps are good for the students collaborating, writing rewards our work. Debate is a game. This should be fun. And the post-round case list also we have one-time surprise because it's a release of the community think tank and non-unique. All apps are inevitably new at some point. And next to the threshold. If the judge can't measure the difference again, education back as a new and disclosed after there's reasons they should go to default app. I'm moving on to the next counterplan. Cross-apply the certainty and immediacy deficits that I did on the other counterplan and perm do both, perm do the counterplan and perm do the counterplan on another energy policy. NGA threats fails empirically act influence because polarization, bureaucracy, Miller 15. NGA is also influenced dirty driven by concerns of the slow moving organization, growing polarization, mother governance, uncountable devolution of bureaucracy that produce a few results of good substantive bipartisan accountability. All the ended out of the constitution, to scatter the others O'Malley, Kuma never attended, Brown and skipped, and uncooperative federalism destroys the environment. Hudson 22, a race to the bottom of the cost of the value. Benefits with lowering environmental standards and restore wars and dangers of consumption race at the bottom of the stable innovation measures the system to prevent financial capital and state growing in population pressures and commerce costs here, especially to address the sort of problem the absent federal legislation brings competition for other states in order to retain the business state engaged in rival over the business operating and resource. And we have credit card, the one I see that I forgot the name of, but it certainly talks about how California state policy often fails because the federal government preempts it and ensures that it doesn't go through because California approves. We'll do more on that if they try to go for it. CapK basically. Weigh the app versus the fiat implication of the plan. They have unique links in a competitive alternative. Anything else on arbitration to go to the main foods. 9 minutes in the one which skills various and costs. Congress outweighs insurance free market writing and insurance environmental costs inevitable because the lack of international communication to stop shorting emissions. The plan can solve by addressing existing carbon pricing strategies and perm do the app, perm do both, and perm do the app, and the all just keep it's international competition. They all can overcome the action plan. Can overcome the status quo. And only I'm not going to read that card, but it's intrinsic to the app's example of using markets in a way that's productive and emissions, which is a negative externality. A cap is the only way that we can solve. And capitalist it's inevitable self-correcting Pascal 11 rise to superdigit vigorously predicted the economy instead of materially not as expected the capitalist system class global capitalism replacement nothing global capitalism sure extraordinary initiative individual the competitive spirit. I'm going to cut it out the competitive spirit, but on the all proper first floating picks are a voter. They steal the app and make the debate against themselves to reject the TV for fairness. And anyways, there's transition wars, which is obviously easy because Trump must let it happen. And if they get money, they're going to make more arguments in the block. This is only one card, so I get to blow it up in the one arrow. DA. First, obviously, climate change comes first. Index oil, second, secondary terrorism, Venezuela, oil pressure 444. Trump threatened on countries to buy oil from Venezuela. Venezuela, 25% secondary tariffs. So Rubio to turn countries away before the tariffs kick in. The volume of Venezuela oil goes to the countries to drop for the past couple weeks. Except where it's about facing nutrient terrorism. Brazil's an all causes sustainability standards 24 hedge, but become more takeover of governance that serious Trump making decisions based on short-term political deterrence, increasing political involvement, raising concerns about potential repeat of corruption. Last time Lula was in office and it returned to the scandals would be disastrous for everyone. Cut that card at everyone. Because I thought I was going to say something, but I didn't, but that was fine. I'm good.
Okay. Cool. I'll go ahead and start. So, theory stuff, you said condo and
Process counterplans
right?
for floating bigs.
Floating pigs too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. That was on the K, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nah.
Got it. All right. Other question. So, you said dispo on condo. What's your interp for dispositionality?
Sure. I think we outlined it in the 2AC that we could have straight turned counterplan.
So, like, we get to kick the counterplan if you straight turn it? Is that
No, dispositionality says our interpretation of dispositionality is if we read offense, you cannot kick the counterplan unless we have also read a permutation or a piece of theory. That would be a
So-
reason to reject the counter plan and not a reason to reject the team.
Okay. Perimeter theory equals no kicking the counterplan, right?
Equals yes kicking.
Okay, okay, never mind, I get you now. I got you, okay. The case debate,
Yeah, sure.
I think it was the Negri evidence.
Yeah, Zeiger is a conservative think tank. It talks
Yeah,
about how Zeiger.
so-
Yeah, sorry, you got your question.
I understand the thesis of the card. The Negrin evidence is citing the IPCC climate report. Zeiger has openly criticized the IPCC's reports. What's the warrant in the card identifying that his science is wrong?
Sure. We think the card specifically talks about how he doesn't use available data. He's falsely agreed with quote-unquote available science. While Zeiger has criticized the IPCC, we would say that that's still an instance of him being a climate denialism. Additionally, what was the next warrant? The next warrant is about how often he just publishes on blogs as opposed to peer-reviewed journals. This is not an author we should prefer in the debate space, especially when you are trying to say no warming
So
impact.
if an author publishes things on blogs, they shouldn't.
No, we think we've cited like peer-reviewed studies, PhDs, et cetera. Zeiger does not do any of that, so you should not prefer him.
Okay, so-
Additionally, we've made arguments about why others have discredited him. We think that's sufficient enough.
Who has discredited him other than?
The IPCC and Nierkin.
Okay, IPCC and Negrin. Got it. Okay, cool. The meltdowns impact, you said, Russia and Japan proved meltdowns.
I did not say that, but
Oh, okay, never mind.
I can explain that if you want.
Sure.
So yeah, Chernobyl and Fukushima are both instances in which there was a nuclear event because of unstable facilities.
Okay.
Chernobyl is a mass example of mass death and societal collapse in an area. Fukushima is also another one. We
Okay.
think that grid collapse is the most likely internal to these sort of events, and that if they were to proliferate, especially in the United States, it would lead to cascading events and societal collapse.
Okay, so, that's, whatever, I'm not gonna ask a question for 5 seconds left.
10 minutes.
I just want to finish this first.
7:10. It's sending. Give me your stand, James.
It's right next to you. Oh, it's right on you.
Oh, this. Okay. The order is the Texas DA, the Federalism Counterplan, the Venezuela DA, the LPK, then disadvantage.
Can you say that one more time?
The Texas disadvantage,
Uh-huh.
the Federalism Counterplan,
Cool.
the Venezuela disadvantage,
Yep.
the LPEK,
Cool.
case.
Cool.
Nice.
I need 2 seconds.
No worries.
I appreciate it.
Oh, did you get it?
Yeah.
That's really weird. Did anybody else get it? Did you just hit reply? Because Jameson's the only one I think has it.
Oh, I
yeah.
think I accidentally hit reply instead of reply all. Oh, that's silly of me. Okay, I'll fix that. Whoops. My mistake. Okay, now it's sending. Did you write down our prep, James?
Yeah, it's 7:10.
Yep. Okay. My doc is like being weird. But I guess my word generally is messed up right now. Well, gotta
Not that you
finish.
don't.
Okay. So, okay, there it is. Nice. Does everybody have it now? Sick. I'll start. The Texas disadvantage conceded stumped. I'm not going for it. It's a stupid dissad anyway. The Federalism Counterplan conceded the purpose test competition. Not going for it. Any theory is a reason to reject the argument. Not the team. The Venezuela disadvantage. Latin America proxy wars cause extinction involvement from Russia, China, and Iran means any skirmish causes direct confrontation between nuclear powers forward, bases surveillance architectures forward, blue point missile, and ballistic missiles cause numerous pathways to extinction. That's Krepenvich. I'm not reading any new impact mods because they conceded impact defense in the 2AC, or they didn't read impact defense in the 2AC, which means there's a high risk of the disadvantage, but it turns, in case it turns warming, because nuclear war is always really bad for warming, and it turns all of their wars arguments in, it turns grid collapse because war happens, or it outweighs grid collapse and the bioweapon stuff because it happens faster. Now their first argument on the page is that climate change comes first. It's wrong. It's turned by the oil disadvantage because because war and nuclear war is obviously really bad for climate change, which I did about the Iran war. Uniqueness stuff is wrong. Oil prices are high. Framing issue busts are distinct from obsolescence. Venezuela and whether temporary losses, but oil's irrelevance deprives them for their only economic engine. That's Dino, and prices are holding OG 363.30 WTI crude futures gain both on the sort of higher for Russia, Ukraine blocks really could lead to an increased supply. OPEC will implement to offset the group's plan to increase the speculated circumstances threats buying early alerts weekly increases. October the market is not overly concerned by the tariff impact. Now the link the successful decarbonization decimates the oil market. Anticipation of transition causes firms to strain investments, spurring decline. That's Bogman's no link defense in the 2 and C means there's a high risk of the link. The Brazil all cost South American instability stuff is wrong because it's not over. It doesn't lead to drive, but the brink is right now. Specifically, Maduro will distract from domestic crisis by invading Guyana. Cohen 23 motivated by politics and natural risk of Maduro by oil revenues was super sensitive attention super wings on the high oil revenues both perceived by remarkable opportunities to unbearable wealth. Maduro may use the border crossing to solidify legitimacy, and that spurs broader war
war and draws in the United States Labots 23 oils hard. The U.S. is taking system the war with Venezuela and Guyana. The status of prelude to military action patrolling with Guyana. Troops to later offer economic improvement. War from someone to the flagging made fun. War with the U.S. is already conducting opposite account of the Washington to support the LPK. Market-oriented economics reinforces the neoliberal practice that results in social sustainability, prioritizing monetary value over all public goods, fostering not just racial and global hierarchies, reinforced by free trade agreements, the expansion of a classical system, white nationalist authoritarianism, ecological devastation matched by the market political mindset that's terrorist. The alternative is a mission-oriented policy through legal and political economics. Crises like climate change could be seen as political, not market issues. The state's role is to shape markets based on public values. The problem is the carbon price relies on its assumptions, not its design. Instead, the state should set markets objectives democratically and guide policy towards those goals. The focus should be on design framework, not policy itself. That's pretty top level. GMU is losing this debate because they read their front line to the cap K when this isn't a cap K. It's a critique of markets based on, it's a critique of market failures, not, the alternative is government failures. But 2AC1 is framework or interpretation is that the 1AC should be an object of research debate, should be about scholarship before implementation. That means material solvency is secondary if we win their scholarship to be rejected. Revert a real world. The 1AC is an imaginative judicial project, not a planned speech. It's an ideological tool to get traction to ideals and constructs. B, the deflection DA there incentivizes winning with unethical or racist assumptions because the plan's net good outweighs rhetoric. Now, fairness is wrong or more unfair because carbon taxes aren't market-based. It's loading limits black. 21 carbon taxes is not market-based. The government is not the market. Fixes paid now. The clash arguments are wrong. We impact are above because the clash that they lead to is clash based on racist assumptions. Now, the next argument about climate outweighing is wrong. The alternative solves it, but the plan doesn't. Central planning is efficient and effective markets are neither Duke and spending 22 little reasonable even if any part resources in the government just like in the U.S. for Germany results in systems and innovation governments created institutions that also foster the man of the U.S. created their own semiconductor industry and finance by government the private firms that ask to contribute with these considering involvement in sector business companies invest a little in R&D and about negatively extends from the military and separate research is not incredible long-term research risk averse or risky. The U.S. is already in R&D at 70% was military and space cut at military and space now top level group the perms they fail one severance or entrench any perm and that excludes the house representations a reason to reject the teamwork clash adds to the plan to make debate impossible voter for fairness to mutually exclusively alternative rejection market via preservation via the state 3 or links or DAC20 it's a reasonable negative including any turns on case 4 or framework means scholastic disagreements are sufficient to reject inclusion they have 5 the democracy DA and the liberal reforms of leadership potential January 6th suppression of wages and the largest profit motives in history over the Republican majority not reading those cards now the link price they don't make markets better pricing views climate change is an externality to be corrected view via taxation this approach simplifies the issue by focusing on pricing emissions failure to capture the complexity of the racial climate economic society and policy neoclassical theory assumes that rational sales interests the competition will lead to equilibrium overlooking the broader impacts of the true nature of the climate problem that's roost now the capitalism and X is inevitable and self-correcting isn't our argument it's a non-starter we're critiquing markets not or markets based on or we're critiquing how they use markets that doesn't get rid of capitalism also answers the transition war stuff we don't transfer away from capitalism just change how we use markets in the status quo and floating picks is wrong it's not a floating pick showcase. No warming impact predictions are made to tell it and oversee the probabilities as repetition of the IPCC and U.S. agencies assuming unrealistic increases empirically temperature is bad, not terrible. That's Zyker. Their models about warming being bad in the future are always been wrong because they're relying on the IPCC. All of the IPCC models in the past have said warming below X is essential by this, and it never has been. The Zyker evidence rejected. Everyone gets their funding from somewhere. They need an indict to Zyker's science, not Zyker himself, but also their evidence is from the IPCC. Zyker is a direct indict to the IPCC, so obviously they're going to say Zyker is wrong, and even if everyone stopped all emissions today, when it's all warming cascade on 19th, there's a 50 lag between the emissions of the carbon and the impact of temperature and environmental search. We're seeing now as a result of the emissions for the 19th, this week of the Gulf, carbon today, globally, still see another generation of warm produces no benefit for 20 years or longer, and adaptation is working May 24, that's very out of weather-related disaster, blended climate change, the most damages due to finding sort of not change rapidly, the earth is warm slightly and CO2 concentration, the kind of the extreme weather events are not change, human causes cut, human causes now extend 1 and C. 4, the grid impact plants are resilient because they're isolated from the internet intrusion and the media hype, and it only lasts a few hours because of backup generators that's going to sell, and the grid doesn't even exist. Usual due to the grid does not exist. It's actually fighting grid signals are going to be collapsing. Thousands of the grids don't know where they're going now. What are they talking about? The redundancy can and they expect a blackout failure would tip off an outage in Newark, and an outage in Chicago, and no nuclear meltdowns. Countries have learned from from Fukushima and Chernobyl, implementing safety defenses failure is increasingly unlikely because of nuclear detonations and assault that Schellenberger and extend no bioweapons impact. It's impossible to create existential agents recreating viruses. The complexity requires a lot of knowledge about financial backing, and synthetic vaccines fail in nature because they lose fitness. That's Wimmer, even if they think synthetic pathogens exist in the status quo. Wimmer says that those synthetic pathogens are inevitably going to fail, and the internal link to this impact is fucking stupid. There's no reason why even with a power outage, there's no reason why terrorists are uniquely going to be able to break into a military base and steal bioweapons, especially since the military is still there. They're obviously just going to shoot the terrorists. There's no reason why they get to the bioweapons in the first place, even if power goes out, and complexity nullifies the flight rebel 17 on complexity units negatively adopted, but it's an adoption of mistakes that are often for the simplest possible way, journaling and local and readily available materials, rather than sophisticated technology that's causality, and attacks require considerable expertise, particularly in the context of bioweapons. They are selling agents. It's difficult to take states to develop predictable biological weapon, even such weapons are acutely vulnerable to environmental factors for non-state groups. Such as complexity is an significant barrier. In fact, it's an exceptionally versatile human transmission that's poorly predictable. Online recipes of weapons and caution look in the extent of detect and geography facilitated the adoption of chemical and bioweapons. Data is not information, and information is not knowledge required for CPW, and the technologies challenges CRISPR.
CRISPR. I'm good for crossing.
Cool. I think I might have missed this part of the K. You said we are not a critique of capitalism, we are a critique of what?
Your use of the markets, or
Okay.
like how you're viewing climate change as a market failure. We're saying that crises like climate should be viewed as political, not market issues. Thus, we shouldn't be
What is a
using...
political versus a market issue?
So what we're saying is that basically what you're doing is using the market and you think the market's going to correct itself. Rather, what we're saying is that we need to use markets and the government needs to use markets rather than the free private sector.
So the government needs to use markets in a way to solve the climate change, correct?
Not just climate change.
Well, okay, but that is the example I'm using. The government needs to use markets to solve for externalities.
They need to reorient how markets are viewed.
They need to reorient how markets are viewed in the status quo. Okay, excellent. How does the alt itself solve for climate change? You outlined central planning. Can you explain that to me?
So central planning would be rather than pricing carbon via a tax, it would be doing things like forcing companies to shift to renewables.
How do you force a company to shift to renewables?
I mean, cut off all subsidies or funding to that company.
So you
ban
utilize
on
market
buying.
mechanisms to stop that? But you've said that you critique what?
I mean,
what do you mean
a carbon? Okay, so a
subsidies?
carbon tax would let the markets diversify however they want to, or the markets don't have to diversify.
What do you think a subsidy does?
Huh?
What do you think a subsidy does?
I mean, a subsidy is given to a company or a subsidization of a certain technology, it's specific technologies. But what we're saying is a removal of subsidies so those companies are no longer profitable, or another example would be a ban on buying things from those companies.
Okay, so using the government to make it so companies are not profitable if they do a certain behavior, correct?
Not in the way that a tax would.
I'm not talking about a tax.
Okay.
I'm asking you, am I correct in that sentence?
Sure.
That sentence is a good articulation of your alt.
Sure.
Cool. Case. I think I'm a little bit confused. What does adaptation look like?
So the May evidence is specifically saying that humans are adapting because of the fact that weather or climate-related disasters are
can
going
you
down.
explain to me
People
quite
are
literally, what is quite literally what is adaptation?
So okay, the Earth is adapting to warming. The May evidence gives the example that even as temperatures rise,
Is the Earth
it's not
adapting or
correlated
humans?
with natural disasters.
Cool. So it's not humans, it's the Earth.
Sure.
Can you explain how the Earth adapts?
I mean, I don't know. The
You
May
don't know.
evidence
Do
is
I have
saying...
to answer this if you don't know?
The May evidence is a correlation between weather-related disasters and climate change.
How does the Earth protect itself from climate change?
I mean,
Say you don't know and we won't answer it, that's fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Great. Year 22.
Yeah. What's that under?
Tipping points.
Tipping points. Got it. I didn't read it.
I didn't read that one.
Oh, cool. Nah, we good.
Okay, cool. 1 hour sent. The order is just the MPD counter plan. Yeah.
Not just that.
I forgot about that. Good. I was pretty competitive.
Halfway through the 2NC, I was like, shit, it's gonna be US bad.
You think Missouri State is the blocks for that? Come on.
Not really, but I thought,
Yeah.
my answers were a little trolly. I'm downloading it, but it should be good in a second.
What the fuck did I do with my MPD? Oh, there it is.
Yep. Okay.
The counterplan solves the act without Congress. It fiats three things. One, the executive implements a $90 per ton carbon tax rising gambling with a commensurate border carbon adjustment. Two, Congress sues the executive on the grounds that it did not grant express authority to do the plan. Three, the Supreme Court rules in favor of the executive. So the sum of the actions alone overturned the MPD by setting precedent for independent exercise made to the authority, including the plan's congressional mandate, which was a ruling that finds Congress to authorize the action. That's great in sufficiency framing because they can't quantify the impact of solvency deficit that would have one. Two is one authority to both. Doing both fails. One does something that benefit only straightforward violation of the MPD result into reversal with the plan's statutory authorization nullifies the violation of the doctrine of the executive would be active and never authorization of the plan instead of under. Two, blank three is ruling in favor of the executive defines the Congress had granted express authorization rather than overturning MPD. Labor statutory make this falls under that regulation, not to MPD. Gerard 21. There be no MPD violation if the agency is acted with the express authorization of the statute. Spends 22. Such that the courts you spend according to not identified yet to exercise the national action that you use the text just line the way to forward up about the have to make it for the purpose of the benefit course will rule the agency don't have the authority to enforce the act and vote make a presumption. F5 part vote to burn through office defense counterpoints and itself the case only was corporate rules. At 2 is purdue other issues. Process to forget other issues fails. Can't solve failings with the policy adopted by the executive needs to adopt what the Congress explicitly authorized taking out the benefit and its insurance against policy up to the plan and counterplan functional competition alone is best one day ground. Textual this is functionally cheating against the F-line board game with advantage unique is counterplan to spike out of DA's alphabet soup and not a clear model competition that's subject to words like involved vaguer, which means its scope is larger. That obviously links to limits and the insurance this explodes with infinite actions that could attach a first strike pressure add-on plank to force the next to join non-topical advocacies. 3, logic internal lab methods for legitimate ever to do also should be allowed for education. BTCB are say this model is best for education. The process counterplans. 2C3. Process CPs are good. One post-drop education is uniquely relevant to learn about legislative processes under a drop of good for legal processes also understand that the abuse of power, otherwise no circumstances and boards, about tech allegations and broad authoritarians and 2, open-line Netflix, uniqueness against new key and 2 4 was condo. First counter was good, Arthur, but we did 1 Netflix after the 2 way argument for the 2 C strategy counter, the only way to resort to equity 2, innovation that fallback to level break arcs, experiment policy, critical argument 3, civil 17, research based and CP, better force, keeps inevitable speed, TDS, framework cases, other and just vote, decide how condo is guys, nobody cares what it is, instead of the process CPs and planks, span 4 firms, and the 5 yes structure, if you should vote after goes better 60 minutes over, also 100% condo, hopes every CP would be resolved their officer, that he was arbitrary and crowds up substance 7, new F justified condo, 2AC 5 and 6, were certainty, and 1, there's no uncertainty deficit, that 1, the plan fees typical legal challenges of CP resolves the result to uncertainty better by fiat support for the Supreme Court, 2, 90 G, climate tax law is uncertain, Lappin, 23, composite tax law, something for the interaction, the rules, already been verificated, the benefits of mitigation, very climate action, and 3, uncertainty increases innovation, especially between the context of APIs, June 21, economic innovation, I think it's the great possibility for somebody, the great possibility to innovation, and the positive relationship is statistically verified. Insert the chart below and from the and 2C7 was immediacy 1. Choose subscribe to paradise, not a deficit, no time for board, and worse, a couple months later, not a deficit because the counterplan can't make it worse. 1 C Winter says the status quo. 2, no warrant for a process being solved yet solves. The court conclude the APA has the authority to set a carbon independent of the legislature because it gets past their defense. 3, no winter paradise corps. Don't perceive the plan is coming but delayed. 4, fiat solves the deficit. The impact of future will strike down with plank 3 explicitly precludes. 5, no delay deficit. The agency begins to enforce the plan immediately delays from proceedings only employee the net benefit. Even those will be short-lived. And 2AC8 was lobbyists. 2 are responsible above. There's no way lobbyists watered down because of course allowed the agency to enforce. And 2AC9 was the other intrinsic part of the West Virginia overturning its intrinsic that bad reasons above. 2AC2 needs a test case and 2AC10 normal means EPA doing things that's needed because claim courts have already to deal with MPD on the app. And 2AC11 was 11. They read the card limit is describing the word of MPD now. It's uncertain the CP solves it. Thanks for the re-highlight, guys. So it's the same thing we said it did in the 1MC. 2AC12 was the process. RF is about rolling back MPD by the process counterplan, which solves it. There's no reason why this is good for them. The 2AC13 was alienation stuff. 1 don't link the solves 2 if true applies to the F2, and I asked about the deficits above. The 2AC14 was no HI, yes, HI 1 donated when HI to accept the impact, whatever, so need to be general intelligence, while extinction, academic relevance, and relative advanced company correction. 2 consensus, and next was agree HI is likely by 2047 for the largest separate of most recently better than the warrants will never be able to express every interest that makes HI possible or not with limited time, but experts have spent years reviewing the evidence. Grace 24, with the most of 30,000 research of AI, the chief issue that from humans every day, what it is, 24/7 in Theron's case, warming every total link, MPD makes a clean energy transition impossible, locks in policy uncertainty. Sweeney 23, try to the issues of the API authority to eliminate the bigger the your stock in the world is vacant around what's uncertainty, a journalist have to use major part of the working but soldier but regulated the eyes the only way to solve warming. Huck no 24 the balance of renewable site unfortunately the gas demand about solving the episode where the rest of the grab made about the package and unregulated the eye become the salon goes extinction and worst pathways include weaponized nanobiotech for instantaneously eliminating humanity. Yukowski 22 doesn't even make you better about it. As anybody does the grab persuade but it's so pretty war but after the animal human rooms are acting as I want to spread a few other good closer to hide but something else over dead that waste torsion 20 but it's the time but it's scenarios and they make the argument powerful about preempting extract here that Trump is limited by MQD even if there doesn't matter the internal impact about alignment from regulatory certainty which they've conceded MQD undercuts and predatory evidence. The is inevitable, and the regulations are inevitable. Air regulations are possible under the MQD. Lobbying, lack of agency authorization, let's big tech, kill after regulation. Dvorsky 17. Remember the code industry has the third of the economy, but you are enough regulations represent the Senate attack. Because the bottom of board and it's tried out regulations the development to vast safeguard standard product central risk after super numbers to 0 and 23. So I expect a few people of gas to go way fast with the weapons of the city idea. A few ways to put it in connection to the shut off and Roberts were the weapon even super so that you did the way it was a using the weapons but even need to video set up another computer systems and you can be turned out outweighs visited an immediate unmitigated impact that outweighs uncertainty and time frame. The
Jimmo?
10, starting now.
Do you want me to? Oh, dude, I didn't even recognize that. Thanks for letting me know.
You're welcome.
Hey, Jimmo. Can you get a card that says this is true? Sector.
I'm going to double check.
That's the last thing I need.
Okay.
So can I stop?
I need to check something before I do that, but I'll your account.
Just gonna go, please.
Just say.
Okay. That's fine. What? You don't. Oh, okay, yeah. Should be. Yeah. We should stop there if you're good. 6:23 left. Let me send that out. There's gonna be 2 dogs.
I'm gonna
I'll
take
explain
this.
it all, but we got it okay.
I'll get water.
It was funny because before we came to the tournament, Jamie was like, I like that, take that, yeah. We just took the impact out, but that's the internal thing.
Missouri State lucky goes for pro lift good like all the time.
I saw it on the other Missouri
Yeah,
team.
like I wasn't like I was listening to the one I see and then I heard pro lift and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I had a moment where I saw it, I was like, shit, do I have to dig up the back file?
Do I?
And I was like, wait, no, we're not that.
Where are we going?
That'll be case, the counter plan, the critique, the dissent.
Cool. Wait, you can work on.
The case, MQD counter plan, LPEK, oil dissent.
Cool.
Anybody not ready?
2 dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, you're excited.
Jameson's, there's 2 docs. Cool, alright. Here we go.
Yes, extinction for warming, they dropped the biodiversity, extreme weather, food wars, all internal links. They have only answered accelerating tipping points from degree shortages, which is not responsive. Zycher is worst data, received funding from Exxon, 4 million. They indicted the IPC, not our model control F to 1AC. We can take it with Tosh's independent research. They dropped winter again, which ensures 4.1 that will be explained below in the counterplan. And so the immediacy deficit, they said stopping all emissions, they wouldn't stop warming. That does not assume the Rotosh evidence. The bottom of it says that even if we pass 1.5 degrees, immediate urgent action, climate action now is key to bring us past bring us back that and ensure that we don't get too existential. They said adaptation is working now. This card just says that extreme weather is slowing, but for our evidence, which is much more recent. Also, Cross-X confusingly said, I don't have to answer this card. Grid is not resilient. Yes, internal. They have only answered isolated from the internet and hackers. Our internal link is about changing warming and inability to provide fuel to the grid. Fossil fuel microgrids cause inevitable grid failures insofar as the microgrids aren't able to sustain power generation, which means that the backup generations can't fill in because they're also fossil reliant. Okay, no bioweapon stuff, but yes, meltdowns. Countries didn't learn from Fukushima. Our evidence indicates that the way that the grids are set up in the status quo is fossil fuel reliant. Absent those fossil fuels, the water will boil away and the meltdowns will occur. It goes existential collapse societies. It's an ultimate depopulation. It says it's an ultimate depopulation event. And the last thing, the bioterror stuff, no impact. That's fine. Kind of fine. Default necessity framing, anything else makes being apt impossible and moots 9 minutes of the 1AC. I didn't recognize this, but when he said it to his partner, they dropped permutation, do the counterplan, extend it. Should it means desirable, the counterplan is an example of the way the plan can done. Congress can enact it, the Congress, judiciary, and the executive can all enact it. They can use the treasury as taxing authority. Yes, immediacy deficit. This is where I'm extending the winter. It says the green paradox is the status quo in the absence of carbon pricing. Oil prices fall, which makes them more usable. It causes 4.1 degrees, which is existential. It passes the degree points that their evidence assumes. It says it is happening now. No slow argument. Legal regulations are extreme. Legal regulations are actually, those arguments don't matter because they're all about the counterplan that they dropped the perm on, I guess. Go to that. We're impact on the overview of monetary value and profit motives are good and the only way to stop warming. That was case. Dropping solvency means that you know the market is good and warming turns the cray, i.e. it creates food conflict which triggers their internal link. Confusingly, this is a double turn with the oil dissad. The dissad is all about how if the state rejects the market, then that will cause the oil countries to lash out and draw into great power war. The alternative is literally that, so it links to them. They said we read the wrong front line. Wrong. We read the correct front line. Their evidence doesn't count for things like positive externalities that the case does, i.e. under profit motives and innovation, you learn skills, the innovation becomes faster, which is positive externalities. The framework, where the absence is linked to the planned fiat implication is key to class and fairness. Object of research is entirely arbitrary, allows integral critiques for the 1C, it allows any and all links to things like an underlined part of our card that don't disprove the 1C because it didn't prove the value in our object of research proof in this round by them going for like an epistemological link, like you said, the markets, instead of something we actually did. That nullifies the dollars point to the plan, which lacks a dogmatic system that outweighs and turns the deflection to sad, since capitalist forms of institutions thrive off lack of clash, i.e. they become the normalized view society accepting their model off. It internally turns fairness via eliminating all our ground, which is intrinsic impacts this debate. This game, which was procedural fairness is good and should be preserved. Permutation do both. Cross-X proved. They said alt is central planning. I don't think that it is. The overview says economic policy changes, which means that it's not central planning other than a whole, rather individual changes in a different place that they think is good. Severance isn't a reason to reject the team. They said something about rationality. It's good. It's key to profit motives. Filter this through drop solvency on case, which means it's the only way to stop warming, which certainly causes the same impacts of the K the oil dissad. They can't turn taste, we've read a separate internal link in fiat outweighs, so we get to certainly weigh solvency against it. Climate comes first, events predicted by the end of 2025 ensures mass oil collapse. They drop the link turn on case, reconversion of oil facilities for hydrogen ensures stable transition, they still get profits. Nuclear war requires they win on time frame, they are behind. Scenario requires drawn, is an empirically long process, and the grid stuff is incomprehensible. Grid collapse coming soon, but fast transition solves unique this debate. Their framing issue would only apply if there isn't a bust now. The retro for evidence is more recent, theirs prefer it. It says Trump terrorists are making oil tank now. Rubio said he would make it rise. Venezuelan experts themselves think it's getting worse, prefer things coming out of the country. Framing issue, none of theirs assume that April 2nd terrorist laws are all about it. The one card they read is outdated and it has the same problem. Trump is targeting the Paraguta. 4-2 Venezuela's export of crude oil, 11.5% of March Washington tariffs and cancels key licenses, regulatory buyers instead of cargo stalling announced no exports of crude sanctions after economic war designed to harm Venezuela. Should measures are expected to hit Venezuela's main source of revenue. It should have triggered their internal link. Lobo 25 tariffs aimed to sever the financial lifelines of the government to provoke its downfall. Announced would immediately worsen Venezuela's humanitarian catastrophe measure, which represent the medieval and default stage of the economic willingness to initiate death. And OPEC plus tanks prices anyways. Periscova for 3 OPEC plus are going full throttle, reversing cuts and a healthy market fundamental seizing 400,011 BPD. The OPEC plus OPEC plus the low price over without crashing before announcement after tariffs. And do you want me to read this card? All causes stability. They had no to Brazil, but Santos proves that Brazil forced themselves on Venezuelan oil and domestic policy. And oil's dead. The only thing we're liberating ourselves is revenue. Pound for oil price drop. The lowest of 201 spoke to price by concerns that terrorists more growth futures fell more than 6%. Swift drop price becomes supply to demand. Everything hit by both sides. The trajectory is unmistakably one way and no impact. Hardiness 14. Latin America and unstable violence. Latin America struggling with poverty and inequality. Latin America puts no threat to peace or stability. Latin American countries do not engage in wars of violent tension. Venezuela border. Venezuela has never taken any conflict. Active religious conflict of Latin America. Terrorist attacks have been eliminated. A drop down to great power war justifies new answers. No draw and movement. Country 20. Latin America is only important. America from to a fifth humanity. Nations graphical economic growth. These are largest indicators. Latin America is declining in relevance. Cut it at relevance.
Stop. Go back to the counterplan. They mishandled Conway.
Back
It
to the
specifically says that lobbyists will water down the plan, which at the very least causes a delay in Congress.
Lobbyists wanted on the plan, which at least causes a delay in Congress under the counterplan.
710.
Start now.
I'll be here. Okay, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure. That's fine.
order is, that's not my mouse. There it is. The LPEK, the Venezuela disadvantage, the MQD counterplan, the hydrogen advantage.
KDA counterplan case.
That's correct.
Cool.
Is anybody not good?
Top level, they conceded a topicality argument that was made into the 2NC can extend the black evidence. Their carbon taxes aren't market-based, which explodes the limits of this debate. It allows for any sort of energy policy that isn't necessarily a market-based instrument to solve decarbonization, i.e. Any form of solar geoengineering, sunshades, anything of the sort. It explodes and creates millions of new apps, which is conceded from the 2NC. Even if you think this is a stupid argument or that I'm a bad debater for hiding it, that you should vote negative to. And then make sure that in the future debaters actually flow the arguments made on the 2NC. The black evidence is very specific insofar as the carbon tax is not a market-based instrument because the government fixes the price, not the market, which means that any sort of energy policy that is fixed by the government but not the market is half under any other interpretation, which explodes limits and makes being negative impossible. Concede their framework specifically that fairness matters. Any other inter makes being neg impossible, which is inherently unfair. Otherwise, concede the permits to test the combination, not going for it, but they can't impact turn there are arguments because they didn't answer any of the warrants within the juke and spang evidence as to why the markets are inefficient. It specifically says that markets have never actually led to any substantial innovation, especially within systems and innovation. Only the government actually creating institutions leads to fostering demand and actual innovation because the markets actually just focus on what gives them more profit rather than what actually leads to the best technologies for solving things, which means that markets can't solve and aren't inefficient. They can't impact turn the overview of the Venezuela disadvantage. Latin American proxy wars go nuclear causes extinction. Involvement from Russia, China, and Iran means any sort of skirmish causes direct confrontation between nuclear powers. Forward bases surveillance architectures and forward deployed ballistic missiles create numerous pathways to escalation. That's Krebinvich and outweighs on the time frame, which I'll do below. But the first argument is that you should weigh the solvency of the plan for solving warming because warming turns the disadvantage, but oil decline from the plan happens faster than warming leads to oil decline. Even if it happens inevitably, there's only a chance that it's solved in the future, but the plan leads to rapid shocks quicker. Second, also on the hydrogen argument, the oil prices fall before companies can diversify, and it's faster on time frame, which I'll do below again. But the oil collapse soon stuff, specifically the Trump stuff, there's a framing issue. The oil prices are high because busts are distinct from obsolescence. Venezuela can weather temporary losses, but oil's relevance deprives them of their only economic engine. That's Dino. Even if you think prices are low now, getting rid of oil as a whole means that Venezuela has no way for their economy to be boosted in the future, which means that it leads to Venezuela going to Guyana as a diversionary war. But further, their arguments about Trump tariffs thumping oil is solved by the uniqueness counterplan. They didn't answer it in the 2AC or the 1ER. The uniqueness and the Trump stuff is new in the 1ER, which means I get a new extrapolation. But the uniqueness counterplan solves because it liberalizes the United States' trade policy over Venezuelan oil. Also, the all causes argument are wrong because prices are high now. That's the OG 360 evidence. It specifically says that even assuming tariffs and other things, prices have not been lowered, even assuming a potential impact. But it's also answered above. The oil is dead argument is also answered above. But no drawing is wrong because we gave a specific scenario for why the United States gets the drawing. More specifically, Maduro distracts from domestic crisis by invading Guyana because he wants a win for his country, which means that he invades Guyana. That's the Cohen evidence that draws in the United States and other great powers because oil is a major part of the dispute in the United States. Is a massive investment into Venezuelan oil, which means that they go to war to ensure stability in the region, which goes nuclear because Russia and China also get drawn in. That's the overview. But there is no answer to link, which means the high risk of the disadvantage. Successful decarbonization decimates the oil market. Anticipation of transition causes, for instance, strand investment, spurring rapid decline. That's Bogman's, the MQD counterplan. See the permits test competition not going for it. The case. On warming, I'm extending the Cascio evidence because the way they answered it was not right. Even if every degree matters, they can't solve because even all the emissions today and emissions from 50 years in the past are still happening. The Cascio evidence specifically says something, or talks about an emissions lag where we are still seeing emissions from 50 years, which means that if the climate is on an existential route right now, 50 years in the future, nothing's going to be changed because the emissions are still in the atmosphere, and we're still seeing a result of emissions from the 1980s, which means that we could cut off all carbon emissions today globally and still see another generation of warming because there's no observable benefits for 20 years or longer because carbon can't be removed from the atmosphere, which means warming is inevitable either way, but the grid impact...
Warming, that means warming is the internal link of biody.
Yeah, warming's the internal link to all their biody shit, so any impacts they can get from warming, they can't solve.
Further, no grid impact while plants are resilient because they're isolated from the any intrusion of media hype and only lasts a few hours because the backup generators is lying to still their answer to the backup generators argument is that the backup generators are relying on fossil fuels, which means that they're unsustainable either way, but that's wrong. The backup generators have fuel reserves, which means that they're able to power enough to actually find an alternative solution to grids, which means that it's inevitably solved by the status quo, even if blackouts do happen and they aren't totalized because of backup generators and no nuclear meltdowns because our nuclear power plants specifically have been reinforced to be resilient to shit like grid collapse. Specifically, we've learned from stuff like Fukushima and Chernobyl where we're now implementing safety defenses, which means that nuclear detonations are all stopped. That's Schellenberger.
Cool. We have, where did you write it down? Cool.
I wrote it down.
Excellent. Thanks.
623.
623. Starting now. Where should I talk about things?
Sorry.
Why'd you close it?
I was like, oh, my career's over. Better close the stand. Sorry, Jim.
I said a card dock, by the way. Thanks.
Okay. Order, yeah, that's typical of you. Order is case, the
This is
K,
adorable. Okay, sorry.
and case, the K, the oil GI.
Cool. Hold on, can I take a picture of this for Taylor?
Yeah.
This is good. I like this a lot.
Roy, you can move over like this.
I don't know where to look.
All right, I'm ready to take this seriously now.
Alright, great. Jordan, you all good?
Yep.
Cool. Once your decision time is up, I want to hear a 3-0 ballot for the app on try or die framing. We are certainly outweighing their impacts on the DA, and even then, we are winning a significant amount of uniqueness takeouts in the DA. This T argument is fucking new. Every articulation of it doesn't make sense. There wasn't an interp in the 2NC, so you don't grant it to them. I'm gonna still do some arguments on it, but obviously the new 2NR explanation means that I get new arguments. I am not gonna lose my career on a fucking hidden T interp without impacts in the 2NC. It's ridiculous. Going for food wars. Escalatory warnings means less food from disasters, i.e. sea level rise kills crop yield, increased water disasters ensure that happen, heat disasters make it less likely for foods to get water, etc. This turns access to crops to Sector 25 evidence from that one he sees hyper-specific now how this encourages countries to go to war over food and resources because they would want to lash out to each other to ensure that to ensure their populations believe that they're doing things to get access to more food, but much more importantly, if they're doing this to actually get more land for arable food, this exacerbates conflict around the globe, and triggers a great power war much faster than those, i.e. the one I see card we read the Sarkman 25 card at the end says that these impacts happen at the end of fucking 2025, which definitely beats them on time frame, and even then it turns great power war because we've isolated this as a global event, so it ensures that there's a drawn from every single country. We certainly outweigh in probability because we're beating them on the uniqueness debate on the DA, which I'm going to do later, but even then they have dropped solvency on case. Even if you like to push on the warming defense, it doesn't work because they're wrong about emissions, i.e. we've proved that IPCC reports about tipping points are wrong. The one I see is specifically a try or die framing for 2025. Roy said this in the 1AR and it's very particular, i.e. we are making the argument that even if there are already emissions in the atmosphere now and we don't have a way to get rid of them, it is we have to take every opportunity to ensure that we can reduce them. This prevents the impacts. We have isolated a brink for this. This card does not talk about 2025, does not talk about recent reports. Our card is from this year. You have every reason to prefer the one piece, to prefer our piece of impact, the warming impact card that we have read over there. So either way, either way, they have dropped the okay, but the grid stuff is going to be the tipping point for your ballot. I'm actually going to move on. That's not worth it. Okay. The T shit is the worst execution of a good strategy possible. They've never said that as a recent project theme, nor an argument definition of a market-based instrument, rather a market-based mechanism in the 2NC. So you don't have the jurisdiction to vote on this, and that means the 2NR push about limits, explosion, etc. is new and should be struck, or at the minimum justifies new arguments. No reason being negs, impossible cross-apply, new ass bad flow, even if they're unpredictable or whatever. We've internally turned this, they were getting a drop into the block. The 2NC said it encourages strategic creating, think about incentive innovation and research voting for on this works for fairness. Our petition said booting 9 minutes to the one he sees terminated whereas index ability to engage and ensures dogma. Even if you don't like this push, they didn't have an interp, they didn't have impacts in the 2NC, and I certainly get new arguments either way. I do not want to end my career on this fucking T interp, and you are going to need to do serious work for them to get it. The last thing I need to answer is the market stuff. It's wrong. None of this stuff assumes the winter's evidence, which Roy clearly extended both on this flow and the case flow of trucks about how markets only fail in a world absent a carbon tax. It's very specific about how carbon tax ensures clean innovation and sustainable rate, encourages companies to move off fossil fuels. Either way, they have functionally dropped solvency in the entire debate. You will not do the work on this for them here. Either way, they drop profit motives and markets are necessary to them, which outweigh negative ones, i.e. economic scales and production, speeding up skills and learning. Only maximize this through processing information, which is key to this. They haven't impacted out this market stuff. It's not a solvency takeout. You can't vote on it. The DA. shit, my doctor note incorrect. First, on the uniqueness contemplate, no, fuck off. It wasn't in the 2NC. Either way, the Junar didn't tell you how it avoids our Trump tariffs, i.e., it doesn't tell you how Chevron avoids the Trump tariffs so they don't get it, even, and doesn't overcome Trump. The Loeb 25 evidence proves that Trump is hell-bent on creating shocks. The Loeb 25 evidence proves that tariffs are setting financial lifelines to government. The announcement of them has significantly hurt Venezuela's ability not only to operate their government, but also the ability to export oil revenues. This is incredibly specific, not only about their internal, but about Trump's relation to it. Additionally, they dropped the targeted 4.2 evidence from the 1 era, which is incredibly specific. Venezuela exports of crude oil fell by 11.5% in March, and is additionally going to fall even more in April because the April 2nd tariffs should have triggered the DEI. They have ensured that there is incredibly less demand for Venezuela oil, which should have triggered the internal link. The only argument they made is that they keep saying that the card they read is about bust, but the framing argument would only apply if there isn't a bust now. Trump is causing a fucking bust in oil. We're outcarding them. There's any warrants in brush up for you prefer the warrants from the Tweezy brush up for it's the most recent, and so you should prefer it. Says that Trump tariffs make oil collapse. No, Rubio said that they want to make that they want to destroy Venezuela oil, and Venezuela experts are saying that it's only getting worse now. It's only getting worse. Yeah, it's only getting worse now. Their framing issue about this bus thing doesn't assume the April 2nd tariffs. You're going to prefer that as a reason that that is obviously a reason that the economic downturn is happening now. They're trying to make the sustainability argument that Venezuela can sustain it. No, because they have not cited to you a specific reason why. Additionally, these are unprecedented economic shocks. Either way, we're certainly winning a higher risk of probability of solvency than they are the DA. Either way, they dropped that there's no impact. The Cardenas evidence, which concludes that violence poses no threat in international peace. Any countries don't go to war with conflicts are uncommon. Additionally, the Moscow evidence says it's unimportant in the eyes of great power. They have interests across the globe, so great power drawn either is incredibly unlikely or the time frame is way off. I don't really have much else to say other than you should vote AF because it's a good idea.
Congrats on making it through 4 years.
Yeah, there you go. That's what he has. I'll send a card down in a minute.